COVID-19 has taken center stage in our lives for the past few weeks, forcing us to be very conscious about our surroundings, what we touch, how to stay safe, and I could go on and on. But have we paid as much attention to our finances and how able already we are to deal with this disease and its aftermath? Well, that's what today's Jamaica Magazine is all about, presenting you food for thought and opportunities you can capitalize on during this time. I'm Theodore Henry. Stay with us.
An important message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness. What to do if you think you have been exposed or are experiencing signs and symptoms of COVID-19. Immediately call 888-1-LOVE. That's 888-663-5683. In addition, you should stay at home. Don't go to work, school, or any public place. Do not use public transport, and avoid visitors to your home. You may need to do this for up to 14 days to reduce the spread of the infection. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Before it was announced that Jamaica had any confirmed case of the coronavirus, COVID-19, persons were stocking up on items. And after the official report, the buying increased, almost to the point of hysteria. With this rush on establishments, we must ask ourselves, are we overspending? And are we buying the things we really need for the moment? Let's break it down.
With COVID-19 now in Jamaica, we are being advised to stock up on hygiene supplies that can be used to protect ourselves, as well as to have at least 2 weeks' supply of food and water in reserve. A lot of us may not have the disposable income to readily do that, at least not without tapping into a little savings we have managed to put aside. But financial experts will tell you, whatever the need, it is important not to deplete our savings, and money management is critically important. But how to do that? First, don't rush to shop, or panic shopping as they put it. Why? Because you may buy things you don't immediately need, leading to wasted spending. Next, I would say assess your home situation. Check how many persons are in the family, if there are babies, toddlers, and persons with special needs. You should then decide on the amount of available money you have to spend. Make a list of the things you need. The experts suggest at least 2 weeks' supply of basic food items and medication. To help with your shopping list, it's a good idea to work out a meal plan for the period. Next, be disciplined. Try not to divert from this meal plan too much and finish the supply early. This would mean going back to the store to spend more money. Protecting your health is priority number 1, and being smart with your expenses actually supports that. We must remember that we are not sure how long the country will be going through this pandemic. So, as best as possible, we need to ensure our money can carry us through for as long as possible and hopefully have reserves for after.
From the data, we can see that most countries will enter a phase of rapid increase in cases. However, depending on the containment measures employed and the timeliness and effectiveness of their implementation, the severity of the increase in infections can be managed downwards. Empowering citizens with information that encourages responsible personal hygiene and community health behavior, such as washing hands regularly and staying home if ill, tracing and containing infected and contact cases, that is quarantine measures, and implementing social distancing measures, gathering restrictions, for example, have real effects on slowing down and containing the spread of the virus.
It is said that by May, the country may have reached the peak of confirmed cases of COVID-19, but the recovery process and further containment measures may still be in place for a few more months. So, what else can you do to protect your financial health? A key thing is to not max out your credit card and income because you are worried that supplies will run out. Check for moratorium on mortgages and loans. Use this as a reserve cash flow instead of your pay or savings. I know it's easy to get off track with plans, but we have to be disciplined and we have to prioritize, now more than ever.
To contain the spread of COVID-19 and to enforce social distancing, government has instituted a work-from-home order.
There are many among us that have long mastered the concept of working from home. But for the majority, businesses and individuals alike, it's a new foreign concept. In that mix are persons whose means of earning simply does not translate to a homework environment, or so it may seem. Let's explore some options. First, if you are socially engaging and have a passion for anything, consider creating content for online. YouTube is a great platform for this. To get started, all you need is a device that can record video. A phone with a decent camera would suffice, and a subject that you're knowledgeable and passionate about. Create your own YouTube page and begin to upload. Over time, as you build an audience, you can begin to earn from ads placed on YouTube, as well as sponsorships that come directly to you. For those whose places of employment have directed them to take their work tasks home, the important thing is to ensure you remain productive. Unlike the 9-to-5 routine of the physical work environment, your home is likely to come with a lot of distractions as you try to navigate around other family members and the fact you don't have a boss physically there to check in on you. It will be important to formulate a routine that will allow you to complete the work that is required of you. Try creating a things to do list and put a timestamp on it. For example, between 9 a.m. and noon is when you will complete that report your manager has asked for. This will work more effectively if it's shared with family members. Not the details, but the timelines, so they know when not to disturb you. Depending on the type of business, working from home could require access to the company's network or the transfer of data. And this brings me to my third and final point. Companies will need to put infrastructures in place to ensure their employees can access all the information and resources needed to maintain productivity in the home spaces. This may involve providing laptops with required software for connectivity. Employers will also need to institute an accountability system to check in with workers to ensure they are actually performing.
We are trying to put in place the measures, bearing in mind that it is not the intention of the government to shut down the economy. What we are trying to do is to institute the measures that we believe will inure to greater practice of social distancing, which is what is now being recommended as the most effective way of controlling the spread of COVID-19.
Protect yourself from the flu virus. Visit your nearest health center or doctor to get the flu vaccine. Cover your mouth and nose when coughing and sneezing. Wash your hands regularly with soap and water or by using an alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Avoid the spread of germs by not touching your eyes, mouth, or nose. And be sure to regularly disinfect surfaces and objects that are used often. Remember, your health is your responsibility.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness made several announcements on water, housing, land, human development, special economic zones, and many others. He was making his contribution to the 2020-2021 budget debate in the Houses of Parliament, and we have the highlights.
I will show you the new Jamaica that is emerging, the place of choice to live, work, do business, raise family, and retire in paradise. Can't shut down the economy has to continue, and therefore there are some strategic decisions that have to be made about just keeping the economy going.
And so, in addition to the $25 billion stimulus package announced by the Finance Minister, Prime Minister Andrew Holness revealed a $10 billion cushion for micro, small and medium-sized enterprises, MSMEs. A Development Bank of Jamaica initiative, the bank will on-lend to financial institutions who will then loan MSMEs at interest rates that have been reduced by 0.75%. As of April 1, the Development Bank will make available $486 million in grants for technical assistance to MSMEs. An additional $10 billion has been set aside for innovative and industrial-type agriculture projects.
Now is the time for enterprising farmers, big or small farmers, and businessmen, big or small, to utilize idle lands including idle sugar lands right across Jamaica. Now more than ever, we must feed ourselves.
Over a 3-year period, 20,000 titles will be issued, amendments made to legislation governing lands, and
This program will allow persons in these communities to obtain their titles and pay the cost over time.
expansions are also expected with the special economic zones industry.
We are going to put out requests for proposals for persons to come and develop the Southlands of Caymanas.
In 2020-2021, government will be spending $15.9 billion on improving the capacity and capability of the country's security architecture. Of that figure, $1.2 billion will be spent on the supply and installation of cameras, servers, software, as well as radio communication and dispatch equipment. Equipping the Maritime Air and Cyber Command, promulgating the anti-gang legislation, implementing the €20 million Citizen Security Plan, and the establishment of more restorative justice centers will also be carried out in 2020-2021.
The returns on the unprecedented investments in the security apparatus already made is bearing fruit, and more gains will be realized in the coming years.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness will continue to tend to the most vulnerable in society in 2020-2021.
JSIF will engineer and construct an inclusive playground for children with disabilities at Hope Green in Papine. JSIF, in partnership with the Child Protection and Family Service agencies, will construct a therapeutic center at the Maxfield Park Children's Home. The government is offering full scholarships to train 2 more perfusionists to enhance the capacity to do these life-saving surgeries. The next stage of scaling up of the Hope program is the full involvement of the private sector. The selection process is far advanced and successful candidates will be assigned within the public sector by May 2020. It is evident that there is the need for another comprehensive review of the public education system covering all sectors of education, and therefore establishing the Jamaica Education Transformation Commission 2020 under the chairmanship of Professor Orlando Pattison, John Cowles Professor of Sociology at Harvard University. We are targeting the establishment of 6 new STEM high schools, academies, that will serve as centers of excellence for STEM education. We are also collaborating with private sector entities to establish the National STEM Teacher Development Center. Ground truthing of the boundary of the area proposed for protection as the cockpit country is far advanced. The National Tree Planting Initiative to meet the targeted 3 million trees in 3 years is ongoing. So far, we have planted 100,000 trees as part of this effort. Improving data collection efforts and increasing our predictive capabilities and managing climate impacts is critical. We have therefore purchased a new weather radar valued at approximately $3 million for the Met Station in Cooper's Hill. We have also signed a contract for the design and installation of a new dual polarization Doppler radar to replace the now obsolete system by December 2020.
In 2020-2021, the Port Authority will be developing the 50-acre Falmouth East Master Plan, a commercial and logistics complex on 12 acres of land at the Montego Bay Free Zone, and extend the Portmore Informatics Park on 6.1 acres of land targeting global services. And the Urban Development Corporation planning for the island's first wildlife sanctuary at Goat Islands has already begun.
NROC will focus on the implementation of the Montego Bay Perimeter Road project. Planning has begun for connecting both the north-south and the east-west leg of the highway, allowing seamless travel in all directions from both corridors.
In eastern Jamaica, the $5.37 billion Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project will kick off with the Harbourview to Yallahs leg.
This GIDP is not just a roadwork program, but a true integrated infrastructure program incorporating road and development, water and wastewater, drainage and bridges, sidewalks, streetlights, telecommunications and sensors.
A modernized version of the Lengthman program will be implemented to not only fix highly trafficked roads, but also provide jobs for persons impacted by COVID-19 and displaced sugar workers.
The HAJ's priority going into the next year and beyond are clear: making affordable housing a reality for over 3,000 Jamaican families.
As a result, housing projects are being pursued in St. Catherine, St. James, Trelawney and St. Andrew. At the National Housing Trust, the completion of housing projects are 37% above target. The Guaranteed Purchaser program will be expanded to include efficient developers to provide houses worth between $5 and $8 million.
A total of 8,364 housing solutions are being proposed for the parishes of Hanover, St. Thomas, Portland, Westmoreland, St. James, and St. Elizabeth.
The Trust will also be continuing its scheme upgrade program, financing of off-site water supply and sewerage projects, as well as building new housing solutions at Rasta City West, Kingston, with the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation.
For the financial year 2020-2021, an estimated $41 billion will be spent, targeting 5,275 housing completions.
And to provide a buffer for mortgages impacted by COVID-19.
Effective immediately, mortgagors who are laid off can apply for a moratorium on all loan payments for 3 months in the first instance.
Mortgagors may also extend the tenure of their loan or reduce their interest rates. As of April 1, intergenerational mortgagors will be able to access houses on the open market and construction loans. Persons over 65 years may now make voluntary contributions to the NHT to access housing benefits up to age 70.
The Trust will, effective April 1, 2020, reduce interest rates on all new loans by 1%. We are also giving a reduction of 0.5% on all existing loans. The interest rate discounts currently offered to special groups, such as mortgagors aged 55 years and over, the disabled as well as public sector workers, will continue. We have to make this the decade when Jamaica take off. We have to make this the decade when we expand the wealth of our country. We have to make this the decade, Mr. Speaker, when communities can sleep with their windows and doors open.
Don't make diseases spread. Wash your hands with soap and water instead. Wash them regular or use a hand sanitizer. Make sure the germs them dead. Touching your eyes or your mouth or your nose. Wash your hands before you do things like those. After you use the bathroom before preparing food, come on, wash your hand them clean.
Up next, we have another informative feature just for you.
You are a child of the universe.
Welcome to the Prime Minister's Digital Youth Town Hall. You know, 25% of Jamaica's population is between the age 15 to 29, 23% between the ages 0 to 15. So you are a very, very important population that we need to talk to.
What we would want you to do is to listen very carefully to the information that you are going to get from the esteemed professionals that are here.
A grade 2 student is asking, is coronas a lot worse than the flu?
Because it's a new virus, we can't definitively say yes or no, it's worse than the flu or not. But we do know that it has a similar pattern to the flu. And so depending on what happens, we'll get to know more as more evidence becomes available. At this point in time, we recognize the fact that there are certain subsets of persons that are more vulnerable from getting more severe course of the disease.
I have one from Nicholas Sherrard. He hasn't said what grade he's in, but he says, Mr. Prime Minister, sir, thank you for doing this press conference for young people. He asks, what will be the outcome for students like me who are scheduled to sit grade 5 PEP exam soon? Okay, so he's in grade 5.
Well, I'll let the Minister of State give that response.
The PEP exams, as you know, we are going to postpone the PEP exams, all right? We will give you more advice or more updates as soon as we get more information. We're looking at possible dates in June at this time, but of course, as we continue to monitor the progress of the virus in Jamaica, as we continue to have our discussions with the Ministry of Health, we'll be better able to give you a final answer. But we want to encourage you all, log on to the ministry's website, and we will have a host of other websites available for those persons. We know that not everybody has a computer or a laptop or a smartphone, and sometimes depending on where you live, we know that the signal for the internet might also be weak. So what we're doing is right now we're in discussions with other cable network providers. We're in discussions with Minister Favour Williams from the Ministry of Science, Energy and Technology, and we're going to be working with NWA to get more cables in the ground or more fiber optics, so that we can widen the scope.
A female from age 17 from St. Mary is asking, Prime Minister, how soon is the government planning to reopen places?
Well, the epidemic has a lifespan. It is almost like a natural event. And what we have seen coming out of China is that it lasted for about 2 months, and it peaked somewhere at around week 4 to 6. After that peak, then the number of new cases started to decline. And as they came out of the epidemic with a reduced number of new cases, then the government in China decided to loosen some of the measures for lockdown. So for example, in China, in Wuhan, they started to lock down that city on the 23rd of January. And just last week, we started to hear that they have started to loosen the restrictions. So that gives you some idea as to how long the measures that we have put in place will last. It's very difficult at this time to say how long the measures will last. What we have been doing is to implement measures according to the threat level as we progress through the epidemic.
What is the chance of survival for an asthmatic person?
Because the asthmatics are one of the types of persons that we pay special attention to. Now, as you know, your asthma symptoms, really, you recognize the symptoms, the shortness of breath, the wheezing, etc. But you know your symptoms better than most persons. So once you recognize that you are now getting short of breath, you're wheezing, or you feel generally unwell, let your parents know or let your care provider know and immediately head to the hospital.
There's one from a member of the disabled community, and I'll ask Professor Sams Vaughan Deja, I believe her name is asking, well, what specifically will happen to our schooling? Will we get more time to graduate to the next grade?
I think that's more an education question.
Okay, let's...
To say
yes,
that
Prof.
we must take special care of our children with disabilities, and we need to ensure that the messages are getting to them. So we're asking parents for the visually impaired persons to ensure that we are speaking with them and making sure that they're getting the messages as well, because they're getting anxious too, because they're picking up on the anxiety around them. The hearing impaired, the children who are intellectually disabled, whose minds are working at a younger age than they actually are. We're asking parents to ensure that they talk to their children and tell them exactly what's happening. Get all the facts and make sure you speak with them so that they will not be anxious.
Many of you would have been messaging me on Instagram and Twitter as well, asking about what about the CXCs and the Cape, etc. All right, so right now, everything is subject to cabinet approval, but we're looking at two options along with our regional partners. We're looking at delaying, or what you call postponing the CXC until somewhere between June and July. That is scenario one. Again, depending on what is happening in Jamaica, across the region. Scenario two would be considering delaying the CXC and the Cape exams until September, October period. If we delay the CXC and the Cape until the September, October period, again, this is all subject to what is happening with the local spread, subject to the Ministry of Health and the advice of the Honorable Prime Minister, then we would be looking at perhaps a new school year, because if exams are in September, October, we would not be able to mark the papers until November. Results would be had by December, which means that now we'd be looking at a new school year, which would start in January 2021.
So we've just commissioned a comic. I don't know if people still read comics. I used to read comics when I was growing up. But we hope to convert that into an animated series. So it has quite a bit of information about the COVID virus, the COVID-19 disease, how you should cope, how you should respond, and trying to seek behavior change. And we will be having a preview of the comic here today. But as I started by saying, I want to enlist the support of our young people in being agents of behavior change for us to be able to be strong fences in containing the spread of the COVID-19 disease.
You are a child of the universe.
This is where our journey ends, but only for today. Join us again tomorrow when we bring you another informative program. In the meantime, stay connected via our website, jis.gov.jm, and watch this and other programs on our YouTube channel. While you're online, send your feedback to Jamaica Magazine at jis.gov.jm or via tweet at JIS News. On behalf of the production crew, I'm Theodore Henry. Take care.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.